Hello there. In every society, we often find people celebrating children that are distinguished as maybe the leader, the entrepreneur, the exceptional academician, the politician, the successful professional, the hero. And it's normal, it's good to celebrate such people. But what we often forget is that for that success story, there was a parent that took time to build and train, nurture, guide, correct, discipline that child. So today we're going to be looking at the examples of two parents in the Bible that raised distinguished children. Welcome to the BPP channel. I am Adetutu Ajemi-Bishem. And the first person we're going to be looking at is Mr. Kish. Mr. Kish. The story is in 1 Samuel chapter 9 and verse 1 to 27. It's a long read, but we may not read all the verses. But we see there the story of the man that became the first king of Israel, Saul. Kish was Saul's father. And the Bible opens that story by telling us in verse 1, there was a Benjamite, a man of standing, whose name was Kish, son of Abel, the son of Zero, the son of Berorak, the son of Aphia of Benjamin. He had a son named Saul, an impressive young man without equal among the Israelites, a head taller than all of the others. So when we meet Saul, we don't meet him on the throne. We meet him as a young person who we are told was impressive, handsome, tall, a head taller than every other person. Imagine that. Somebody who is the tallest in a nation. I'm sure in our own society, he will be a celebrity automatically. Somebody that girls love to flock around. Somebody that many will, want to be associated with, because of his physical outlook. But beyond the physical outlook, he had a father who raised him up as a responsible son. So we are going to be looking at the story of Kish, the father who raised a responsible son, just to buttress what we have been saying about raising children that will be distinguished in the society and children that will serve God's purpose in their generation. So the story starts out with the father missing some donkeys and then asking his son to go look for them. Verse 3, now the donkeys belonging to Saul's father Kish were lost. And Kish said to his son Saul, take one of the servants with you and go and look for the donkeys. So he passed through the hill country of Ephraim and through the areas around Shalisha, but they did not find them. They went on into the district of Shalim, but the donkeys were not there. Then he passed through the territory of Benjamin, but they did not find them. When they reached the district of Zuph, Saul said to the servant who was with him, come, let's go back, or my father will stop thinking about the donkeys and start worrying about us. We'll take a pause there. So when we meet Saul, he's given a responsibility by his father. And this was not a childish responsibility. So Saul Kish entrusted Saul and exposed him to a meaningful task. Don't forget that in the times that Bible times, having animals was like family wealth. It was family business. And obviously this family had some means. They had some means. They were a wealthy family. They had servants. They had donkeys. They had animals. So Saul came from, we can call it, a privileged background. But that notwithstanding, his father handed him responsibilities. The father gave him a task, and that was to go and look for their lost donkeys. Livestock in those days, like we said, represented family wealth and survival. So Kish was actually entrusting Saul to something valuable. So lessons for us modern parents. Do we give our children responsibilities? Some of us parents, we do everything for our children, and then we wonder why they are not responsible. Here was a father who had a situation at hand, and he called on his son. We can assume that he was probably in his late teens or possibly early 20s, but he gave the responsibility to his son to go with the servants and look for that. And we see how Saul handled the responsibility, showing a boy that had been raised up to value responsibility and value the family wealth. He did not just go to one place. He went to several towns looking for these donkeys. And that is something remarkable, because in our days, I am sure many young people will probably rebel or complain and say, Dad, why don't you send the servant, or why don't you send the driver? You know, they don't want to take up responsibility. Or even if they were given the responsibility and they actually went, possibly they will not have the patience to go from one vicinity of town to the other looking for, this kind of assignment to carry out. But the Bible records that Saul went to at least 4 different directions looking for this, until he got to the last place, Zuph, where he began to now, show concern for his father. So one thing we can learn from this is that responsibility cannot be taught only by words. It must be developed through practice, helping your children, starting with giving them things to be responsible for. Be responsible for your school bag, or be responsible for your younger sibling when they go out or they go to school. Giving them responsibilities, taking care, manage your study schedule. You are supposed to have study time from so time to so time. No watching of movies, no use of phone. So these are the things that we need to learn from this father who taught his child responsibility. We also see that Saul did not argue with his father. He obeyed. And it is important that we learn how to teach our children to obey instructions. Healthy submission from home, because that will project into how they also relate with authority figures in society. If we have not taught our children how to submit to our own authority, then they will have a hard time submitting to authorities in school, in society, even to the police, another authority figure. So we see a child that was taught healthy submission at home, and a child that knew how to receive instructions and carry it out. We also see a considerate son. Saul began to be concerned for his father, that, oh, I know my father. He will stop worrying about the donkeys and start worrying about us. That reveals emotional maturity. So good parenting teaches us to also, teach our children to think beyond themselves, not just to be occupied with themselves, especially in a culture that promotes yourself, what you want. And that is, so common in the times we're living in. It's all centered about self. But here is a son who was raised to be considerate of other people's feelings. And so good parenting also teaches us to raise children to think beyond themselves. So a well-trained child learns empathy, sensitivity, concern for others, which is very different from the self-centered culture of the days we are living in. His father also, taught him to be prepared for great things. We see how considerate Saul was, when he was told by the servant that there is a prophet in this place. Possibly he would tell us, let's go to him. And Saul said, oh, but we don't have anything to give him. The servant said, don't worry, I have some things that we can give him. And that shows us a father who not only raised people, his own blood, but also people that lived with him, to be considerate, to be respectful about other people. And so we see there that Saul, I beg your pardon, exhibited traits that we would like to see in our children. No wonder he was God's choice for the first king of Israel. We know, of course, that he later made some choices that were wrong, and he fell out of favor with God. But all the same, these traits that were in his foundation qualified him when God was looking for the person that he will ask to be the leader over his people. It is a great thing when God can pick our children for great tasks and great purposes, because we as parents have taken time to raise them up with all the traits that will distinguish them as leaders and as tools in God's hand. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to share with those who will benefit from this, and we will be happy to have your comments. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. God bless you. Till next time. Bye.